Yılmaz and İlkin were sitting at a cafe on an ordinary day, talking about how they could add some excitement to their dull lives. İlkin, tired of Yılmaz's monotony, suggested that he should take an interest in art. Yılmaz wasn't too keen on the idea, but İlkin's constant talk about art was starting to confuse him. Then, İlkin took it a step further and suggested that Yılmaz should become a nude model. With a glint in his eye and full of confidence, he said, "Yılmaz, if you really want to spice up your life, why not become a nude model? You'd be right at the heart of art." He was half joking, but he didn't expect Yılmaz to actually start taking the idea seriously. Yılmaz looked at him, stunned. A nude model? So he'd have to pose naked for people? That sounded a bit much. Still, seeing that İlkin was serious, he grinned nervously and thought about it. Sensing Yılmaz's hesitation, İlkin didn't let up. He kept talking about how art requires sacrifice and tried to convince Yılmaz that it would be a good experience. Eventually, Yılmaz, somewhat influenced by İlkin's words, began to take the idea of being a nude model seriously. With a shrug and a faint smile, he muttered to himself, anything for art. And so, their absurd adventure began. When they arrived at the studio, Yılmaz's face was full of anxiety. The space was filled with old-style art pieces, which made him feel out of place. He glanced around, already uncomfortable at the thought of posing naked. A young art student warmly greeted Yılmaz, and his anxiety lessened slightly, though the nervousness lingered. As the student explained how the poses would work, Yılmaz couldn't help but find the whole situation ridiculous. Standing a bit straighter, as if trying to act like a great artist himself, he mumbled, "Of course, for art. We'll do anything for art." Meanwhile, İlkin was watching with great amusement as Yılmaz stepped into the world of art. He quietly snuck into a corner, eager to witness his friend posing naked. As Yılmaz stripped off all his clothes, the art student began instructing him on how to strike more artistic poses. At first, Yılmaz tried to remain natural, but with each passing minute, it got harder. The student's instructions became more and more absurd, and the poses Yılmaz was forced into grew increasingly comical. Before long, İlkin could no longer contain his laughter. As Yılmaz awkwardly tried to follow the directions, he could hear İlkin giggling in the background, which only made things worse. When the art student asked Yılmaz to be more flexible, Yılmaz found himself in an even more ridiculous position. "Yılmaz Bey, you need to free your body for art," the student said with utmost seriousness. Yılmaz squinted in disbelief, muttering under his breath, "Is this even art?" By now, he was growing frustrated but kept trying to play it cool. At this point, İlkin could no longer resist, bursting out in laughter from his corner. Yılmaz was already uncomfortable, but İlkin's reaction pushed him over the edge. He was naked, posing in the most ridiculous ways for the sake of art, and İlkin was mocking him from the sidelines. It was too much. Unable to contain himself any longer, İlkin leaned over, still laughing, and teased Yılmaz, "Dude, you've become a true masterpiece." Yılmaz shot a glare at İlkin, but bit his tongue. Watching his friend laugh so hard only made his frustration grow. He was reaching his breaking point, and after a few more absurd poses, he finally snapped. "That's it!" Yılmaz shouted, standing up, still naked. What kind of art is this? The embarrassment of being naked was now secondary to his frustration. The art student calmly approached him, still trying to explain. "Art knows no limits, Yılmaz Bey. Your body is a part of the art. You must free it," they said.
But Yılmaz wasn't buying it. Filled with frustration, he grabbed a towel to cover himself, muttering, "I'm done with this," as he stormed out of the studio. Once outside, Yılmaz turned to İlkin, embarrassed but trying to play it cool, and said with a faint smile, "I guess art isn't really for me." İlkin, still amused, looked at him and replied, "Don't worry, man. Art might be something else for you, but admit it, that was a pretty good try." And with that, Yılmaz's brief and absurd journey as a nude model came to an end. While things didn't go quite as planned, Yılmaz had once again found himself in an utterly bizarre situation. İlkin, on the other hand, had gotten yet another day of entertainment from watching his friend's ridiculous adventure.